We're talking about equation today. We're talking about solving percent problems using equations. A little bit different than setting up the problems for solving percent problems using proportions. Same letters though. It's going to be really important for us. So let's review from yesterday. And by yesterday, I mean the last time we had class. Because who knows? Maybe next year it'll be Monday and Tuesday. I don't know. Review from the last time we had class. Percent problems involve three things. Okay? They involve an amount, a percent, and a whole. That amount is most of the time the part. Yes?
Are you going to go over it?
No.
Oh,
That's a bet.
Yeah. We'll do it tomorrow. Good call. Thanks for that. So as I was saying, percent problems involve an amount or a part, percent, and a whole. Let's remember what these are, okay? So the is, that's a weird sound. I'm going to turn that sound down. The is referred to as the amount of the part, right? It's tied to the amount, the is. All right, the is was the A. Is was the A. And then you have percent. That's a funny sound. I'm gonna leave it for the video. Then I'm gonna crank it up. All right, so the percent was P, and then you had the of. That's a laser, so you know. The of stood for the whole value, right? So you had your is, your percent, and your of, which was your A, your P, and your W, right? And as long as you know any of those, that's really fun. It's sort of distracting, isn't it? I'm gonna turn it down. Yeah, there we go, that's better. The thing is, as long as you know any of these, as long as you know two of the three, you can find the third, okay? So let's remember some equation stuff. This is not on your notes, but we need to just listen and pay attention and participate, okay? So we're gonna write an equation for these. You guys remember, we need to remember unit 4. That's where we wrote equations, okay? So 7 less than a number is 15. Anybody have an idea of what we should do first?
15 minus 7.
No?
7 minus x equals 15.
Almost. What keywords do we have? Marzupin.
7 plus.
Less than is a keyword. What's that keyword tell us?
subtraction.
Subtraction. But when we have less than, that's one of those flipped ones. Right? And then we have 7. What else is key for us? Is. Why is that important? What does is mean? Is means equal to. Okay? So that means an equal sign. What else? A number. What's a number going to be? Sure. Or n or p or any variable that we need. And 15. So what's our equation going to be? X minus 7 equals 15. Done. Right? X minus 7 is not the same thing as 7 minus x. So don't forget some key important things of converting words to numbers. What about this next one? 8 is 1/2 of a number increased by 7. What are some important words for us? Is. This is very important. Why? Is equal to 8. What else? Increased by, right? What's that mean? Add, we're adding, right? Increased by would be adding. 7 increased by 3 is 10, not 21. What else? We got 1/2. Of is important. Why?
It means multiplication.
Exactly, it means multiplication. Right? And then we have a number, which is n. And then the last thing is 7. So we can write this equation. What is the equation going to be?
Bro, you played.
So this isn't on your notes because we're just thinking through. This is all review. So what is it going to be? What's our equation going to be? We just translated everything from English to math. 8. I just want us to read from left to right. We'll just read.
8 equals 1/2 times n plus 7.
Good. 8 equals 1/2 n times 7. Fine. That's that. Questions? That's important. We need to be able to convert from English to math. Key stuff for today is means equal to, Of means multiply. That's the key stuff for today. It's the biggest key for today. That is means equal to and of means multiply. Okay, so here's our equation that we're going to have. A equals P times W. Anybody look what this kind of looks like? A pow! Right? You got a percent equation? A pow! Now here's the cool thing about this equation. A pow! Right? It's like Muhammad Ali. A pow! Mike Tyson. A pow! He's going to get you, right? So this is how we remember this thing. The P and the W are always like this. Now we know equations can be written this way and that way, right? Because what about this? X equals 4, 4 equals X. Same thing or different thing?
Same thing.
Just written differently, right? So I can have a pow or I can have what?
Power.
I got the power.
Yeah.
You know that's how it's going to go today. That's good. You can have a pow or you can have power. Right? It doesn't matter. Because the P and the times and the W, right? It's, of course, it's not an O. It's a times, but it looks like pow, right? So we've got some arrows that we need to point through. What's our first arrow? Let's take a look. What's the equal sign? Is. Write it in. What's the multiplication sign? Of. Remember we had is over of equals percent over 100? Same thing here, right? We've got an is, we've got an of, and now we've got some percents, we've got hundreds. What's our A going to stand for? Amount or part, right? It depends on what the context, whether we think about this as amount or part. And one of the things about this stuff is it's always amount of something, right? If we're talking about the percent of females in the room, then A would be the amount of females in the room. If we're talking about percent over here, right, this question we talked about earlier. If we're talking about percent before dinner, what's the A going to be? It's going to be the amount before dinner. If we're talking about the amount of candy you ate on Halloween, then the P would be the percentage of candy you ate on Halloween. Notice how it's the exact same wording for the P and for the A. What's the P going to stand for? Percent. And here we must change it to a decimal. Now, you can also change it to a fraction if you like, but decimal is typically what I change it to. It's a little bit easier to change from a percent to a decimal, right? Than it is to change from a percent to a fraction. It's up to you how you'd like to do it. I say it needs to be a decimal. And W stands for? Whole. Okay? This is an equation, a pow, or pow-a, right, that you're going to have to memorize. But in actuality, you aren't going to have to memorize anything. It says you have to memorize. All you have to be able to memorize is the conversion from English to math. And when we translate English to math, we're just identifying different parts, right? You guys did that when we wrote the equations earlier. You wrote the equations, we translated from English to math, right? From an English phrase to a math phrase. That's something that we've done and that you're pretty decent at. So that's what we've got to do. Okay? We're going to have this, get those in, and then we're going to translate. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to identify, we've got our practice problems here. 54 is 20% of what number? So the thing we want to do is we want to identify the is and the of, and write an equal sign and a multiplication sign below it. Now, I want us to kind of structure this. Let's just identify the is and the of. Do you see the is and the of?
Yes.
Good, let's circle them. Is and of. What's the is?
Equal sign.
Equal sign and the of?
Multiplication.
Good, so now let's determine what we don't know. Notice the structure. Is comes before the multiplication sign, so it's going to look like a pow. Because the equal sign comes before the multiplication. You with me on that? It's going to be a pow, not pow-a. If it was pow-a, the multiplication sign would come first. Right? Pow-a. We'll see one where it's reversed. You'll understand what I mean in a second. So now, what are we looking for? Are we looking for the A, the P, or the W? What are we looking for? What don't we know? The W. That would be the whole value, right? So we want to fill that in. That we don't know the whole. Find the whole value. That's what we're doing here. So now let's identify our A, our P, and our W. So what's our A going to be? 54, right? A. What's our P? 20%, and our W. Notice, all we're doing is translating. A, P, W. So what don't we know? The W. Now let's plug in and solve. Change the percent to a decimal and write the equation. So instead of A, we're going to write what? 54. Instead of P, we're not going to write 20, we're going to write,
0.2.
thank you, 0.2. And if you want to put 0.20, that's fine. I usually don't, but if you want to do that to make it so it looks the same, that's fine with me, I don't care. Then you have your multiplication symbol, and then you have your W. Now, is this an equation we can solve? Yeah. How do we get W by itself?
Isolate the variable.
How?
Inverse
Build a
operation.
wall.
Well, we don't necessarily need to build our wall.
Inverse operation.
This is a one-step equation. I don't think the wall is too necessary. We want to use inverse operations. What's currently happening to the W? Being multiplied by what? 0.2. So what should I do to isolate it? Divide by 0.2. And here's where you use your calculator. All of you picked up a calculator earlier. Don't get up now and do it. Tell me what you got. So this is one where we're going to need to solve using the inverse operations. What do we get? 270. Let's see if that makes sense. All right. 54 is 20% of 270. Literally, we just plugged it into the phrase. Say it out loud. Ready? Plug this number in for what we don't know, and let's say it out loud. Ready? Say it out loud.
54 is 3% of 270.
Thank you, Luke. That was interesting. Let's try that again together and see if it makes sense when we say it out loud.
54 is 20% of 270.
Does that make sense when you say it out loud?
Yeah.
Why?
It makes them see.
Because 270 is kind of a bigger number, 54 is a smaller number compared to 270.
Exactly.
Because 20% is a small amount.
20% is a smaller amount. 54 is the smaller amount. 54 is 20% of a larger number. Cool. That's all we got to do. All right. Let's get to this one. Uh-oh. There's no is. But can we rewrite this?
25%. No, 75 is 25% of.
I think find is
Find is not is, but I like your idea. Find is not is, right? Find is fine. But can we rewrite it so that it has an is in it?
find the amount.
No. We are finding the amount. We will be finding the amount. That's right. Can we rewrite this so there is the is in this phrase? So we can rewrite it so that there's an is. There's two ways we can rewrite it so there's an is. Well, there needs to be a question, right?
25% is 75.
No, we can't change what's already there. We can't change the of, because of is there. We want of to stick around, right? We want is and we want of. Because what's is tell us?
The amount.
Nope, is tells us our equal sign. Of tells us our multiplication sign. Find, so what we can do is we can replace find with
What is?
what is.
Oh my gosh.
So another way we could have written this is 25% of 75 is what? That's another way we could have written it, right? To get that word is in there. So here let's identify our is and our of. Here's our is, there's our of. Is equals, of is times. And now we've got our, is this going to be a pow or pow-a?
A pound.
It's going to be a pow. Pow. Now let's replace what we need. We want to change the decimal, the percent to a decimal and write the equation. So we've got A, which means we're finding the amount, right? We're finding the amount. 0.25 times 75. Now, do we need to isolate the variable? Thanks, ma'am. Cool. You can just go ahead and just put that around my desk. Yeah. Thanks. Head to school. Now, do we need to solve using the inverse operation, or do we need to simplify?
Simplify.
Why do we need to simplify and not solve in this one? What do you notice about the variable?
Sorry, already isolated.
It's already isolated, it's by itself already. So since it's already by itself, I don't need to solve, I can just simplify that right side. So use your calculator and tell me what it is. I want to go a little faster, so somebody just tell me what it is.
Tell them out loud.
Thank you.
1870.
Now let's make sure that that makes sense, right? 25%, 18.75 is 25% of 75.
Yeah.
Is that, yep, because 18.75 is smaller, and the amount should be, the amount isn't always smaller, sometimes we can have a larger percent, but when you say it out loud, it is. All right, here we go. A little bit different structure. First off, identify the of and the is. Of and is. So what's of?
Times.
Times and is?
Equals 2.
Ooh, so is this going to be a pow?
Power.
No, this one's going to be pow up.
I got
I got the power. Right. This isn't gonna be, and we can write it like that, that's fine. There's no problem with that. Which means that we've got our P, our W, and our A. Because we say I've got the power. So we've identified our is, we've identified our of, and now we can write our equation. That's why I like the equation better, I'm gonna be honest with you. I like the equation better than the proportion because I like this process. For me, is and of mean multiply and equal sign. They don't mean numbers. But if you like the proportion better, that's fine. Tomorrow you'll be able to use the proportion. Today we're using the equation. We're gonna go a little faster for the last two. So percent is not 56, but
0.56.
where do you think the biggest mistake is for people?
Not right.
They put 56% instead of as a decimal. Could you also put 56 over 100? Sure, if you want to. You would multiply both sides by the reciprocal, and that's fine. Equals 42. So what are we looking for? We're looking for the whole. Exactly. Now how do I get W by itself? I isolate the variable, right? The variable's not isolated, so I'm going to have to solve using inverse operations. Can't simplify. Right, I'm not going to simplify because, well, I have to solve. So what do I need to do to both sides?
Divide by 0.56.
Divide by 0.56. This is where our calculator comes in. W equals, hey, look at that. Let's plug it in and see if that makes sense in our heads, like verbally. So let's read it out loud verbally with this number plugged in for W. Ready? 56 of 75 is 42. Let's do it together. Let's try it together. Ready, set, go.
56 of 75 is 42.
Does that make sense? 56%, so about a little bit more than half of 75 is 42, right?
Yeah.
A little bit more than 75? Cool. So you see how pow or a pow, it doesn't really matter. It's just a different structure. Okay? And then last one, I want you guys to do this one. Actually, this isn't the last one, is it? We got number 4. We got 2 more. Let's do this last one. We'll do this one together, and then you'll have one to do on your own. Okay. Find the is, find the of. What are those?
Equal and multiplication.
Equals and multiplication. Is this going to be a pow or pow up?
A pow.
This is going to be a pow. Brenna?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
So for this one, what is the find the?
What were we finding? Were we finding the amount, the whole, or the percent?
The amount?
If you were looking for A, if A was your variable, then it'd be the amount. If W was your variable, then you would be finding the whole. If P was your variable, you'd be finding the percent.
Okay, it's the amount.
Okay, cool. So let's plug in what we have, right? It's a pow, so A, P, W. What are we looking for?
The percent.
We're looking for the percent. All right. So let's plug in. 21 equals what?
P
P
times 168.
is 168. And now, what do I need to do? I need to isolate the variable
By
using
inverse
inverse operations. So not simplify on this one.
Divide.
I need to divide by 168. And we get a decimal, right? Is that our percent? What decimal do we get, people? Is that our answer?
So we gotta
No.
move the percent sign twice to the right.
The decimal sign twice to the right, yes. So note, when finding percent, the answer may be in decimal form. You must change it to a percent. So this is not our answer because it's not a percent. Just like Kobe said, 1, 2, this becomes 12.5%. Now let's make sure that makes sense. 21 is 12.5% of 168. Yeah? Right? 12.5% would be a lot smaller, right? So 21 is 12.5% of 168. Questions?
I don't go back.
All right, you and your partner do number 5. You and your partner do number 5. All right, here it is. Let's check. Ladies and gentlemen, hey, we still have a couple minutes left in class. So this was a finding a percent problem of and is. This was a power, right? The last one was a pow. This one's power. There's the structure. P times W equals A. It's always going to be in that structure. Always. Okay? Or it's going to be is A equals P times W. Questions on this one? I can talk through it.